We're reading more of Walden and economy because she wants to know how much he spent to plant his beans and how much he made on his bean field, I guess. Why do you need to know all that? And what are you reading it for? The other stuff of Walden, but we're continuing where I left off. Part 3. Part 3 of economy. In the savage state, now we're talking savages, the savage state, every family owns a shelter as good as the best, sufficient for its coarser and simpler wants. But I think that I speak within bounds when I say that, though the birds of the air have their nest, and the foxes their holes, the savages their wigwams, in modern civilized society not more than one half the families own a shelter. Very interesting, own a shelter. Half of the people don't own a shelter. Seems interesting point. In the large towns and cities where civilization especially prevails, the number of those who own a shelter is a very small fraction of the whole. Is that like in Potterville and A Wonderful Life? Remember how Potter took over everything? Because he wanted it like he'd never lived. Like Potterville. We could have Pottersville. What if one man owned every house? In the large towns and cities where civilization especially prevails, the number of those who own a shelter is a very small fraction of the whole. The rest pay an annual tax for this outside garment of all. Became indispensable summer and winter, which would buy a village of Indian wigwams, but now helps to keep them poor as long as they live. Yeah, this is terrible. The rent. Shouldn't have to pay rent. What if it was rent free? What if rent could have a shelter and the new couple should have a house. Own their house. A new couple has to own their house.
The growth of the towns was coming from within the town, they cared for each other more. But since people started to influx come from outside, they didn't care too big for them, so they rented.
They rent to the outsiders. If you're inside, you can get a house.
And then they ended up renting to everybody.
Renting. The concept of rent. The rent's just too high. Who was the politician who said that? I do not mean to insist here on the disadvantage of hiring compared with owning, but it is evident that the savage owns his shelter because it costs so little, while the civilized man hires his commonly because he can afford to own it, nor can he in the long run any better afford to hire. The houses are too expensive. If we had 3D printed houses by the robots.
And then you need rent.
Then you'd have to rent the robot. Where?
That's why they didn't decide that if it's no land, it's less land than houses.
Do we need a city planner and an architect?
Don't you see it? Yesterday on television, they say the zoning of the building
The zoning.
because they don't want to expand the city farther. They have to build on top of the buildings.
I don't know. This gives me a headache. I don't know the solution to real estate, so I have to read Thoreau because I don't know anything. Because I haven't been through a thorough reading. I've gotten through. What answers one? By merely paying this tax, the poor civilized man secures an abode, which is a palace, compared with the savages. An annual rent of from $25 to $100, these are the country rates, entitles him to the benefit of the improvements of centuries. Spacious apartments, clean paint and paper, Rumford fireplace, back plastering, Venetian blinds. Now, if it cost him $100 a year and he makes $1 a day, is he spending 1/3 of his time on rent? Yeah. Does that seem economical? Copper pump. He has to have a pump, a spring lock, a commodious cellar, and many other things. But how happens it that he who is said to enjoy these things is so commonly a poor civilized man? He's talking about the poor civilized man. What if you could be a rich, uncivilized man?
No, he has first the people, how he calls the other ones?
Savages.
Savages.
They're Indians, like the wigwam.
The
Wild man.
But then in the cities, in his time, he called it civilized.
Basically, you can get a backpack with a tent and go on a long hike along an Appalachian Trail or somewhere and be you can be a savage in a way. You could have to use a tent instead. You can go to campgrounds. You have to pay at a campground. It's quite expensive, some campgrounds. $35, $40 for a campsite. That's expensive. Some of them are cheap ones are less, but they